G'day, just wanted to check in, and I was walking out here in the bush, beautiful after a drop of rain, and just thought I'd talk about a topic that sort of came to mind while I was walking along, and that is that we never really think about it, but you know, our experience that we're having in life with regard to every area of life is happening for a reason. There's no accidents, you know. So for some people, they might find that they're having, you know, desirable stuff happening and got good momentum in certain areas, but then other areas, you know, whether it's relationships or finances and or health or whatever it is, are kind of flailing, you know, in one way or another, and certainly not representative of the way they'd love it to be. But everything that's going on is happening for a reason. So what I mean by that is that the reason is that we're experiencing things that we're experiencing in our lives is because of our set of beliefs about the way it is. How you going, mate?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Good, thanks. And the way it is, particularly in relation to self, others and the world. So, you know, I am sort of things, you know, whether it's I am unworthy, and it all relates back to those 12 fundamental beliefs, but we're carrying this unconscious structure, this belief system, and we're assuming it to be true unconsciously, largely unconsciously, and whenever it's getting the power, then we're actually the ones creating experiences in our lives that are reflective of those beliefs about ourselves, others and the world. And they're beliefs of incompleteness, you know. These are limiting beliefs, and they're our default mode of awareness, which means that we don't have to think about being in this mode of awareness, this survival mode, and being governed by those beliefs. That's just the default for us. So when we're not thinking about things, when we're not conscious about what's going on, about the actions we're taking or not or whatever, then you can just know that we're in our survival mode essentially. And when we're there, what's got the power is our belief structure. And so we're just going to continue to create different variations of the same old, you know, those undesirable results. So what you'll notice is that eventually you kind of get over that, you know, you sort of, I'm bloody over this, you know, I want something different. And the reason for that is because we have two tensions involved in our, I just want to check this leech. Not this time, cool. Okay, so we have two tensions involved, you know, inherently in us. And one is our egoic tension, which is this tension that seeks to be resolved in favour of our safety, our survival, in favour of our beliefs of incompleteness. So it's that tension is always looking to reinforce those beliefs by giving us experiences in life that appear to be evidence of those beliefs to be true. You know, if it's, say, for example, if I'm believing on a level that I'm unworthy, then I end up having these experiences that would seem to, you know, make that very true, to seem to be quite strong evidence that that's actually the case. And in so doing, reinforcing that belief, you know. And so that dynamic's happening all the time. There's always the potential for it. It's always looking for your buy-in and to gain traction. And it does that through your conscious or unconscious focus and attention. So there, when you're being unconscious in your life, when you just sort of, you know, in default mode, you're in on autopilot, that's what you'll be giving your attention to, and the power to is that default mode of awareness and your belief structure, if that makes sense. So the other tension that we're under in our lives simultaneously is soul tension, which is, there's an aspect of us that seeks to be expressed and experienced, and that's our true essence, you know, the truth of who we are, our heart, our true potential. You know, there's different names for it, but it's essentially the true us and those things that we came here originally to experience in life and to express. And so there's a tension there that we're under as well, and that tension is seeking, you know, expression. It's seeking to have those experiences. How are you, mate?
Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks. And so, you know, there's always the egoic or the soul tension seeking resolution. And the difference between the two is that the ego is usually quite strong, noisy, you know, obvious, whereas the soul tension's not like that. It's more sort of subtle. It's always there, it never goes away, but you know, it's just not as obvious more times than not. So that's why you'll find when you're creating things in alignment with your ego and your survival mode, you know, you get to a point where you're over it. You're over what you're creating, and you don't feel like you're creating it, by the way. It feels like this stuff's happening to me and I don't like it, you know. This relationship, you know, why can't I ever seem to sort of get it right in my relationships, or why do I always struggle to connect with loved ones or to open up? You know, why do I always blow up and, you know, cause conflict or react to conflict? You know, or why do I feel like a victim to the agendas of others and circumstances more times than not? And the list just goes on and on. But it does get to a point where the soul tension starts to kind of draw you in that direction. You know, you start to shift and move off the default mode and seek to create something new, something different in your life, something beyond what you've known before, what you've created before, and it's beyond the familiar. So what you'll notice is you'll be able to think back more than likely, and you'll notice that whenever you've gone for something that is outside of what's familiar to you, is beyond the same old for you, then your stuff comes up, you know, and sometimes you'll end up still creating what you're going for, but more times than not, when I say your stuff comes up, it's like your ego starts to really ramp it up. And the way your ego communicates to you is through thoughts and feelings. So your stuff comes up in the form of egoic tension, and what the thoughts and feelings are seeking to do that come up when you're going for something that's beyond what you've created before, those thoughts and feelings you're having are designed, you know, to freak you out, to give you a sense of self-doubt, to provide you with reasonable and justifiable excuses why not to go any further. And if you buy into them, that becomes your reality, and you don't end up following through and creating what you were going for, what you'd love. And so you drop it, but you justify why you did. You'll always notice, oh, I had a good reason for that. And you won't think twice about it. You'll think it's because of somebody else's involvement. You blame them, or it's because the circumstances, the conditions weren't right, whatever it is. But you'll notice that you came up with a cracker excuse or excuses as to why it didn't happen. So it's really great to be aware of those dynamics for a start, because when you're not aware, usually your default mode of awareness gets the power, and the idea that you were creating is doesn't happen, doesn't see the light of day. But when you're aware of the dynamic, then you're able to actually see it for what it is. And so what you'll notice is, I'm going for something new here. I can expect to sort of see some tension, some thoughts and feelings that are freaking me out a bit, you know, causing self-doubt and that sort of thing in relation to it. How are you?
Good, thanks.
That's good.
Hey,
G'day.
how you doing?
Good. And so the beauty of knowing what's playing out there is that then you actually have more choice. Well, you actually have choice you didn't have before when you were unaware. So when you've got choice, then it's about using your will. And so your will is, you know, it's that mechanism that you assign the power with. It's where you say, I'm going for this and I'm going to create this. That's what I would love. And that's that. I'm following through. I'm going to see it through until it's created. And when stuff comes up, you acknowledge that stuff. So thoughts and feelings, yeah, I feel disconnected from what I'm creating right now. I feel like there's no way I have the capacity to create that, given what's showing up right now. Yeah, I feel like there's good reason why I should just give up on it. Look at this guy. What you doing, mate? Oh, there you are. Anyway, freaking out. The only thing missing there was a very high-pitched scream from me. Given that I really love the bush, I sort of get jumpy when it's a snaky kind of a day. That was a goanna, obviously, not a snake. So anyway, knowing what the dynamics are that are playing out, it's really, you know, it's where it's at, because then you can use your will. You know, you use your will to assign the power. And when I say assign the power, I mean, you know, choosing what you're going to continue to hold your focus on, what you're going to continue to take action in favour of. And so, you know, typically you would give up and pull out on what you're doing based on, you know, apparently good reasons for doing so. And that's just the you know, egoic tension being resolved in favour of the old story, you know, in favour of essentially your childhood wounds and survival. What results from that, though, is that you just don't get what you'd love in life, and your life continues to repeat the same old story. So assignment of will, you know, using will to assign the power, I should say, is really important. And the thing about will is we all have will, but it's like a muscle that's worth flexing often, you know, and using our will in spite of, you know, in the face of adversity. Because when thoughts and feelings are tampering with you in relation to what you're going for, it's a challenge, right? Sometimes it's really intense, sometimes it's really hard to, for example, to not react the way that you would typically react. Something's playing out, somebody's really into you, and you would typically do X, Y, Z. But in that moment, when you use your will to assign your power to a higher perspective, a bigger picture, you know, what you're actually going for in your life, and you don't react, even just doing nothing in that moment is a really powerful use of your will in favour of your true essence and what you'd really love. And whenever you do that, it's a big deal, because you're strengthening your will and your willingness to use it, you know, in favour of your bigger picture. And these are steps in the direction of creating life the way you'd love to have it. And the interesting thing about doing it is you're shifting out of a very linear and limited structure and into a quite magical structure, the set B structure, the set B orientation in your life, where when you start to really stand for what's true, what you'll notice is what you would have thought logically would have taken years to accomplish can really come together quite readily, and often does. And momentum is built magically and, you know, quite quickly in relation to those things that you're standing for, the things that are true for you. So, you know, at this stage, it's really good to, at any stage really, it's good to come back to that awareness. You know, even if you've been familiar with it in the past, we can kind of get distracted in life and find ourselves, you know, back where we were, creating things that we were over, not feeling that we've got momentum in the direction of what we love. And so it's just about not beating yourself up, because that's only reinforcing that egoic agenda. It's about just recognizing it. Oh, okay, yeah, I've lost my focus, that's all. So in losing your focus, it just put you in the old structure. So it doesn't mean anything about you, you know, at all. It just means that you're in the wrong structure. And so getting back into the creative structure, into the set B structure, the one that through which you can create the life that you really love, is as simple as coming back to the, you know, the principles and those basics about where's my focus right now. Actually, getting clear on what is it I'd love, what am I going for, what would I love to create, and standing for that, noticing and recognizing as and when your thoughts and feelings are coming up in resistance to creating that and appearing to be very real. But just acknowledging that, yeah, that's how I'm thinking and feeling right now. But it's not reliable, you know. I know where, if I take action and make decisions based on that, I know where it goes. It goes to creating things the way that I'm over, you know, that the old way, that just goes there. So it's not worthy of your attention and your focus. But what is worthy of it is those things that you've become clear on about, this is what I'd love to create in my life. So standing for that, you know, honouring that, and not giving up on it, even though things might appear, you know, justified to give up on it. Just see it through, and it'll blow you away. And every time you do that and you have success with it, which you will, you give yourself another point of reference of where, yeah, things were challenging, but I stood for what was true for me, and I kept going. I saw it through, and the side effects have been magical, you know, in my life. So I can do it again. I can do it now that things are challenging again, you know, and I'm going for this other thing. I'm just going to apply the same thing with regard to my focus, you know, and not buying into thoughts and feelings, not giving the power away to that structure, and watch things change, and they will continue to change. You'll continue to create through that consistently, and really sustainable outcomes. So that's it for today. So yeah, hope you're going really well, and just check in with your thoughts and feelings, see them as unreliable, be clear about what you're going for,